welcome to the $1 Billion Podcast, a weekly show about the entrepreneurial journey and making it big in any industry. We're your hosts, Joe White and Cain. Today, we're excited to introduce Deb White. Hey, Deb.
Hey, thanks for having me. I look forward to it.
Awesome. No relation. Not that I wouldn't love to be related to you, but there is no relation.
No relation.
So Deb is a veteran mortgage broker with 25 years. This April, actually. Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you.
She's got 25 years of experience in the industry. She's the owner and first lady of White House Mortgages. And I think that's from 2005, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
You've consistently ranked among the top 75 brokers in Canada. And in 2023, you ranked in the top 2% of DLC brokers across Canada. That's amazing. So welcome, Deb.
Thank you.
It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm excited. This should be fun.
Yeah. So maybe you could start off by telling us about how you got here, not necessarily today, but maybe how you started off in this industry. Because we often hear that, as a little boy, I didn't wake up thinking, light bulb moment, I want to be a mortgage broker. So tell us how you got here.
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I will short version it. I didn't wake up as a little girl thinking, oh, I want to be a mortgage broker. I woke up thinking I want to be a teacher. So it's a little bit diversion there. So long story short, married, not married, had 4 children. Trying to find my way. My background, I was an interior designer. Then I had an injury to my shoulder. I couldn't do that anymore. I worked at a show home, and the realtor needed an assistant. Fast forward, I'm now her assistant, got my real estate license, hated it. Trying to find what else is going to be my jam. Living paycheck to paycheck as a single mom. Found an article in the newspaper. Yes, that's how I did it back then. Looking for a job as a mortgage broker with a lender. I applied and I got it because I had my real estate license. So that was in April of 1999. In December of 2000, sadly, one of my children was in a near fatal car crash. So I had to I traveled 45 minutes a day each way to that job, and I couldn't do that anymore. So I quit that job, came back to Vernon, and hung my license to become a broker because I was working for a private lender. And then over the next 6 years, that child and we traveled and we spoke at schools about the effects of drunk driving. And I slowly climbed my way up the ladder. Now, why did I start White House? Because the company that I was working with, I was doing well and I was establishing myself. And I met a fellow, we got married. And then 3 weeks after we got married, I quit that job because they were doing things that I didn't find proper. So I quit, and with $3,000 in the bank, we opened up White House. So that's how I got here.
Wow.
What a story.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there, Deb. I'm curious about one thing you said.
Sure.
I don't want to forget. What is it that you hated about being a real estate agent or about that job?
You know what? Every personality is set for a certain thing. And mine is not for the real estate business. And being the single mom of 4, being on call at 10 o'clock at night. And again, back then I had to wear a pager. Yep. A pager. Right. And it just wasn't me. You can't write your own schedule. You have to drop everything. And it just wasn't me. My personality is better suited for here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So,
Yeah.
So when you made the move, telling us about having $3,000 in the bank account,
Yeah.
what did that feel like? I mean, that was a gutsy move. It seems like.
It was. I was scared poopless, and my new mother-in-law was like, "Oh my God, what are you going to do?" And I tried to explain to her that I was self-employed anyway, so this isn't really a difference. It's actually probably going to be better for me. And when I went home and told my new husband, I quit my job, he went, yay, yay.
Oh,
So he was very excited, and it was scary. So I had 60 days to put things together, and we scrambled. And we just fought hard. So I plugged in my phone and went, please ring, please ring. And it's funny. My very first client, he worked at Safeway, and he was walking home and he saw my sign up. My desk wasn't even together, and he walked in. He needed a mortgage, and he's still my client, and it just kind of roller coasted from there. Yeah.
that is amazing. I also see that you've been a volunteer at Knox Mountain Hill Climb,
Yeah.
and that predates you getting into the industry. Do you think well, how has that been for you in business? Because we often talk about, taking your passions and combining them into business,
Yeah.
right? Has
Well,
that,
so I'm giggling because how I started in the hill climb, my best friend, I've known her since I was 14. I'm not going to tell you how many years that is, because that'll just tell you how old I am. But at any rate, I was single, and I said, I don't have kids for the May long weekend. What am I going to do? And she said, well, it's me and 88 men at the top of the mountain. I went, I'm in. Oh, I'm in. Sign me up. So I started volunteering there, and I worked with them at the finish line, and it was a lot of fun. And, I like ordering people around, apparently. But I actually retired from there about 4 years ago, and they keep sending me messages to come back, because I did get them organized. I didn't, when I started mortgage brokering, I volunteered there for fun, for my enjoyment.
right?
I didn't really do it to push White House. And then the weather forecast for one weekend was horrible. So I brought my White House mortgage tent and I put it up because I needed to have cover. Well, one of the drivers started talking to me, and he goes, hey, I talked to this other company. They said I couldn't get qualified. Can I come to you? Yes, you can. I ended up doing 4 mortgages for him over the years, and now more and more drivers have come to me over the years. But that's not why I started.
But that's amazing. That's an amazing story of unintentionally
Yeah,
using
it is.
your connection like that. And
Yeah.
imagine if I mean, that's something I think that a lot of new agents should do, right? Is use their social media presence, use their volunteering. I mean, it's not necessarily, I guess, to promote it, but like you did, you weren't promoting it. It's just, as long as people who know you know what you do. It seems like just inadvertently putting your umbrella out there, people then saw who you were and what you do. So even if you didn't do it intentionally,
Yeah.
I guess a lesson from you here is make sure that everybody knows who you are and what you do.
Well, exactly. And like I said, I do things unintentionally. Now, I started volunteering hugely because I said one of my children was in a near fatal car crash, and my other 3 children were at home. So I came home from the hospital that one time to check on the other children, and there was food all over my front step. They had left food because they knew I needed help. So I started volunteering for my city because my city was giving back to me by having food on my front step in my time of need. So it was wonderful. So I do a lot of volunteering to give back to the city that gave to me.
That's amazing. And what city is that, for those who don't know?
Vernon, British Columbia.
Now, Vernon, as we know, Deb, is a major metropolis of multi-million people. So you have a massive. It's not, is it? It's a
I'm
little
looking
market.
at you like wondering what you drank when we were on that break, because like Vernon, I think my tallest building is 4 stories high. I think
Okay.
maybe,
So,
maybe.
and
We have,
you are in the top 2% of DLC in Canada. So that's amazing. Tell us how you're doing that in such a small market.
well, yeah, the market is small. We have in Vernon Central, I think it's about 40,000 people in the outskirting area. So maybe all in all, it's maybe 60,000. And it's just like being me, I think, like just being real. and, caring and letting the clients know that I do care, and just staying in touch with them. And just, I've been in their situation, whether it's a purchase or the hard times, like how am I going to pay my bill? Because I asked the mortgage company way back when in 2000 to stop my mortgage payments because I had to sit by my child's bed who was in a coma. Right. And they did. So I've been there. And it's just that process of saying, like, I get you, right? And not being the bank that they walk into, just being, I get you, I'm real, like, I'm not in a suit. Yeah. If people show up in a suit, we're like, what happened to you? Like, no.
We love to hear that, Deb. We talk a lot about that, about being authentic and having your own personality and connecting with people, not with companies, right? Not faceless. Is there anything else, do you think, that you've identified that may set you or other successful agents apart from others that are coming in the industry and maybe not finding that success?
I am I'm a rare, I found out, is that I've never given out my cell number. So none of my clients have my cell phone number, which is unheard of. And just setting boundaries but letting them know you are available and treating them with the respect that you want back, and you'll get it twofold, right? And it's just being true to you, being true to them, set expectations low, deliver high kind of thing. And, cut if you don't think you can do it. Like, don't lead them down the garden path. Just say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Right.
So this, I love that you're speaking to this, because it's such a topic today as well. When we talk about balancing work and life. Mm-hmm. And obviously that's, you mentioned 4 children. You had an accident with your one child. It sounds like it took a lot of care. What advice would you have for someone that's maybe coming in and that does have, or trying to find that balance, and maybe feels like they have to give out their cell phone and has to be available at 10 o'clock? How did you manage that? How did you do that? And what advice might you have for someone who thinks that that's what they have to do?
Well, I basically had to do it because I had to set boundaries. My children needed me. Now, saying that, they're all grown now. I have actually 7 grandchildren now. So when my cell phone rings, I know it's my family, my friends, or anything like that. So setting those boundaries and saying, you know what, family, you are important to me and you mean the world to me. They're going to give you back the support that you need to be successful. And I think that's how I've done it, and how other successful brokers have done it, is that you just set the rules out right from the beginning. In the morning, when I get to the office, I don't take phone calls from clients from 9 to 11. That's my time to get my poop in a groove kind of thing, right? And when I go home at night, I might look at my email up until 8 o'clock at night. Other than that, I don't look at my email at all. So I just keep it focused. And when I'm out for dinner with my girlfriends or my husband or whatever, the phone stays in my purse. And one time we were out for dinner with a bunch of girls. We all put our cell phones on the center of the table, and whoever looked at it had to pay.
That's great. That's great. So what I'm taking away from this is you really look at that time when you're on, and when you're off, you're off, and that's. I think that's something that people struggle with when they're working during the day and they're doing other things. They're not really completely on. But I think what we're hearing is you have to be on.
You have to be on.
And when you're on, you're on. There's another important point, Deb, you made that I want to make sure doesn't get missed, is when you said that you're there for your family, you're prioritizing your family as well, so that, or I guess what comes from that as well, is that they also support you, which is what you mentioned. I think that's really important, especially for those that are new coming in, to understand that, family is you need that support around you, because it's not always going to be easy. So that's a really, I think, well-made point that we haven't heard a lot of that.
Well, for instance, my daughter was going into labor. It was the first grandchild, and she needed me. she's the one that was injured, and she needed me. And so I was running out the door because I got the call. I got to go, right? Cancel my appointments, do it. And they were calling one client, and they said, well, if she can't meet me, I'm going elsewhere. I said, tell him goodbye. I don't need him.
Yeah.
And it was, you've got to set those boundaries. What's more important? That one file that is going to make you $1,000 to, $5,000. In my area, my mortgage size is like $300,000, or my child that's going to be the rest of my life. Right. So I think I chose properly.
Priorities as well. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Vitally important. Now, maybe switching gears a little bit, you mentioned earlier that you like to tell people what to do. And and I'm going to tie that into that you were the president of CMBABC.
Yeah, but I didn't tell them what to do.
Okay, maybe I'm overstating that a little bit. But you certainly directed the organization. And maybe you could tell us about your time doing that, because that sounds like it would be challenging and rewarding all at the same time.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely a fun experience. But, I was also the chair of a carnival we have in town. It's called Vernon Winter Carnival. It's 9 days long. I was a director on the board for 10 years and the chair for 5 years. And how I led that board was the same way I brought over to CMBABC. Even though we had an executive, right? The executive didn't run it. We discussed things and then we brought it to the board. Here's what's happening. Here's what we need to do. What are your guys' thoughts? And, that's why we have the board, because we're going to make a joint decision. But it was really cool because when I became president of CMBABC, we were the very first all-women executive. So the treasurer, secretary, and vice president were all women. So it was very cool. And it was very cool. But I'm honored because I'm still the past president. So I'm still on the executive and stuff. And it's still being run the same way. Like, we got to talk to the whole board. So if you're out at a function and somebody says, oh, I hear the board is doing this, you're not as a director going, what? So you've got to the communication lines open, and that's hugely important. Communication.
And Deb, being part of these boards, and I'm sure you're looking at sort of the industry and how it's evolved now since you started. Mm-hmm. What do you think is going to be happening in the future, in the next 5 years, maybe 10 years, with the industry?
I'm going to retire. No, just kidding. Just kidding. 5 to 10 years. I mean, looking back, 2008, that's very similar to what's just happened. 2023, everybody was saying it was their worst year ever. I get it. It was definitely a hiccup, but that's what it was, a hiccup. So, and I keep telling, like, the brokers, we have 23 brokers that work with us. And I keep telling them, just because you've planted your seed, it's not going to grow unless you water it. So you just got to keep functioning and keep motoring along. So just because it's slow, don't stop doing what you were doing to make you busier before. Pick it up, keep doing it, do it double time, and then the deals will be coming in. So what do I think is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years? Well, I think that there's going to be some changes with the government in regards to rules and regulations with mortgages. And I've already seen some changes in BC happening. I do think the rates are going to come down to where we are affordable. And I think that's going to be in the 4 range, in the mid 4s to high 3s. I think that's where it's going to be. I think, people are questioning whether we're going to go back to 35-year amortization and 100% down. I don't think that's going to happen. I really think that would be a terrible move, because that's what happened in 2008, and people owed more on the house than the houses was worth. So I think we are going to evolve. I know a lot of people are concerned about the AI and everything coming in. And again, I think it's, you use it as a tool and not as your go for all. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's amazing. One of the questions that makes me think of is, what have you found? Like, have you found any consistent traits in your agents and brokers that have made them successful? You know, did you notice anything about a person and think, you know, that's somebody who's destined for big things or
Yeah.
otherwise?
And it's funny, you know, when brokers come and ask if they can join White House, I'm kind of picky because my team, we're family. We're just not a broker. I'm very proud to say out of the 23 brokers, I think there's 11 of 12 of us that have been here minimum 10 years.
Wow.
Wow.
I've got a broker in April. She's been with us 16 years, another one who is 17 years. And it's that family vibe. So when they come and ask to join, they have to have that family. They have to have that compassion. And I want the heart. I want them to go that extra mile for the brokers, or for the clients, pardon me. I want them to fight for that client's deal. And so that's what I look for. And all of my brokers right now have that heart, and they're part of the family. And if somebody has something devastating in their life, which has happened, we all jump in and help them. You know, it's teamwork.
Sounds like an amazing culture that you have.
I love it.
Yeah,
I just love it.
That really is great. And we do hear more and more of that in this industry. One of the things, I mean, obviously, Remick doing the course, we have thousands of people that come through that are potentially going to be new agents. And one of the questions that we get a lot from those people is, how do I apply for a job? How do I write my resume? How do I tailor my cover letter? I don't have experience in finance. I don't have experience with marketing or sales. And so something that we always say, and I think that's mirroring what you said, is that it's I think for most brokers, it's not necessarily about that. Looking for competency, they're looking for culture fit. They're looking to see who you are, what your drive is, what your work ethic is. I mean, those things I think come first. And that's, I think, a misconception coming into the industry. People think, oh, I need sales background, and not necessarily the case. So it's great to hear that as well.
The other thing I look for is, you know, and further to your comment about them coming to you, I don't have a resume, I don't have a job letter, a cover letter, pardon me. But when they come into me, I remind them that they're interviewing me, you know, as much as I'm interviewing them. And the key is find a mentor that is going to work with you, not against you, right? Find a mentor that is going to excel with you. And I love training my new brokers. We meet every Tuesday. We just changed it to Wednesdays at 10 a.m. And I train them. And how do I train them? Well, I started doing a bingo game. And instead of on the squares being numbers, it's answers to questions about mortgages. And
cool. That sounds like fun.
It is fun.
I want to play.
So they have to get 3 lines. And then once they get that, then we go through the bingo squares and we talk about each product or each question. And it just helps them learn a lot faster, because if you make learning fun, you're going to learn better.
Yeah, that doesn't change. You know what? It seems like as kids, that's what we knew when we went to school. Learning had to be fun, and you had to gamify it. And then as adults, we get into the boring theory. And you're right, it has to be fun. And it sounds like you're having a great time with your team. So when it comes to mentoring, what do you think? I guess where I'm going is it more important from your perspective, mentoring on the technical aspects, or more soft skills like getting clients and how to talk to them?
The soft skills. Definitely the soft skills, because the technical stuff will come. I mean, as I told you, how do I download Google? Kelly! You know? So, I mean, that the technical skills will come, but just getting the clients and helping the clients and getting your name going forward, right? Because they say in marketing, it takes a person 27 times to hear your name, to remember your name. Right, Joe? Right, Cain? Yeah. Right? No. So it's 27. Right? It's consistency that gets there. And I mean, starting out when I opened up this brokerage 19 and a bit years ago, I never thought I would be a mentor and consider myself a mentor, but I guess now I am. And it's just, we have to work together as a team. it's, yeah.
Well, it sounds like that's your mentality. It sounds like, you have that giving spirit, and, you're telling people, you're teaching people, you're mentoring them on what you've learned coming into an industry that, you came into the industry. It sounds like much the way your brokers come into the industry, except they've got you to be there for them, which is must be incredibly comforting for them. And it just sounds like amazing culture.
It's very humbling for me and very honoring for me. I know that I am a unicorn per se, is that I guess it's from being the single mom, and some might call me an overachiever, maybe, yeah. I'm a huge multitasker, so I can do many things at once, except when it comes to talking to my client. If they took the time to sit in front of me, then those are my clients, right? Or be on a Zoom call, then I'm focused on that. But otherwise, I'm usually doing about 4 things at once.
Now, we talked about new agents, and when you're mentoring new agents, when they are coming in, especially if they're brand new, as we mentioned, to this industry, what do you think some of their biggest challenges are, especially in that first 6 months, first year?
Getting out of their own heads. That I think is their biggest issue, is getting out of their own heads. Like, is sometimes they come in, they're motivated, but they're, here, Deb, how did you get to where you are? Well, here's what I did. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, how do you ask me how I got here? So, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. Yes, you can. Right? And stop being afraid of, what if they say no? What if they say yes? So what if they say no? You asked a girl out, they said no. You asked a guy out, they said no. Like, who cares? Move on. The right one is the next question away. Right?
That is such a great point. And it's so difficult. You got to get out of your own head. I mean, like when you talk about dating or anything else, I think we are often our worst critics, and it's great. So when you're joining a brokerage as a new agent, it is good to find a mentor, but also somebody who's there to not just teach you, but instill confidence in you, I imagine.
Oh, correct. And I mean, you want to find someone who is definitely going to have a program set up for you, and not just to be there. You don't just hand them the briefcase and, I guess people don't carry briefcases anymore. Whoops, hang on. I don't know. I still carry business cards, and I have a
Merce. So. I carry a Merce in the summer.
Why doesn't that surprise me? But you know what? You just can't, here you go. Here's your name badge. Here's your briefcase. Away you go. Right? That's my name out there. Yeah. And how are you going to represent me? I want to make sure that you're representing the entire company, because it's just not me. It's every single broker within our company that you're representing. So we want to make sure that we're out there, we're positive. And that's the one thing I say, even if you're in a down market, stay positive, and that's the one thing people comment to me about is, aside from my height, it's my smile. It's just, I'm always smiling. It's just, what have I got to be upset about?
Well, you know what? Everybody has something that they could be upset about, and it sounds like your life has been no different. But you choose the positivity, which is obviously paid off immensely for you.
Well, I'm also that girl that will say, if somebody's walking down the street and I like what they're wearing, I'll say, "My goodness, you look nice today," because I had that happen to me a couple of weeks ago. I was just walking down the street, and this woman said, "I like your outfit." And I went, I just had my long black coat on and a bright green scarf, but I remember what I was wearing, and I remember how that made me feel.
Right.
And so it's just like the positivity goes a long way, because what do they say? If you've got a smile, share it with somebody else, because they might need it. And you never know what other people are going through. So just help them through that day.
Amazing.
Yeah, I love that advice. We actually talk a little bit about that in some of our other content about giving compliments, but that they have to be authentic. It has to be real. It can't be feigned or faked because it will come across and might come across as creepy or something else. So it has to be an authentic.
Yeah, not like
thing, right? But
not like, oh, Joe, I like your hat. But Joe, I love your last name. I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with a perfect last name, right?
Right.
That reminds me, I'm going to tell this story almost every time I have a chance to. Cain and I were in a Tim Hortons in the lineup, and we were getting a coffee, and he walked up to this girl in front of us, and he just said, "Oh, I like your dress." Next thing I know, they're chatting away, and he has they've exchanged numbers. This was just a few days ago. No, I'm joking. Cain's been happily married for a while.
It's many years ago.
And Cain and I have been together for in a platonic sense for about 15 years. So this happened, long before his lovely wife.
I love that you felt necessary to say platonic sense.
I know.
People might think I have an earring, right? I don't know.
The earring and the merce.
I was thinking, Joe, stop talking.
Yeah, I've been told that before. Thank you.
I'm not a shy girl.
No, good. That's part of your success, and again, I think it really comes back to the fact that you're willing to give and show people that they need to get out there and be there. As we started this conversation, be their authentic selves. Get out of their heads, be their authentic selves, because people love to do business with people they really like, and most people are likable people if they get out of their own heads, right?
If they get out of their own heads, you know what? And my dad taught me at a very younger age that I was going to be a tall girl. So stand up straight and be tall and be proud. So no matter where I go, people do turn and look, because I'm tall, and it's just like, okay, I'm here. What do you want? Right. It's just, I'm going to be noticed no matter what. So I might as well have a smile on my face and get out of my own head and don't be nervous and slouch. Just be there. And that's the key to being successful. And, when you find your why, right? Why are you doing this? Right? Find your why. And that's what I tell people when they're volunteering. If you're volunteering just to get your name out there, don't do it.
Yeah.
Volunteer because it's a passion that you have, right? And suggestions for volunteering is like, if you love reading, go to the library and read to the elderly or read to the kids, right? There's all kinds of things that you can do, but make sure it's your why. Make sure you love doing it. Otherwise, the volunteering is just going to be, oh, okay, I got to do this. Just do it because you love doing it.
I think that's such an important piece of advice. One of the sound bites that we like to say is be a mission with a company, not a company with a mission. I think that it really resonates if you actually adopt that philosophy and, do things that you enjoy. Like you mentioned, we talked to another broker a few days ago, and he's really into sports, and he got a lot of business by playing baseball and by volunteering, but it wasn't his intention very much the same way. So there's a lot to do out there of things that you enjoy, and it can all blend in together.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love sports, but let's get real. I'm not going to play them because I walked down the road and I tripped. So come on.
You didn't play any volleyball or anything? You said you're tall.
I am tall, but my problem is, and I get teased about it a lot, is I have itty bitty feet for my height. So I tell them it's because my feet are small. I fall down a lot. If I can't make fun of myself,
what to say to that.
Hey, where do you go from there?
Yeah, where do you go from there?
If I can't make fun of myself, why not, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Deb, is there anything else you think that, and especially for those that are maybe coming into the industry or considering a career as a mortgage agent, is there any thoughts that you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the only thing I can say is don't join a brokerage because you think that Aunt Martha thinks it's the right brokerage to join. And if it's a bigger brokerage, it might not be the right fit for you, right? So make sure you're joining the proper brokerage for you. And if you are in that brokerage for, let's say, 2 months, 3 months, and it's not working, leave, because that's going to be the best thing for you and for them. So find your fit. I think that's the best thing I can do. And once you find your fit, you're going to be compassionate and you're going to get that motivation to get going. Because if you're in the wrong house, you're not going to move. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, it does. I love that. That's such good advice.
Yeah.
And Deb, where can our listeners find you online? You have a website?
Oh, no, I'm hidden. No. It's a very hard website. It's debwhite.ca.
Perfect.
And you know what? Just probably walk down a street in Vernon and you'll run into each other.
Actually, I'm on the back of a bus. And it's and I didn't start out advertising like that at the beginning. I started small because I couldn't afford it, right? It's like, where am I going to put my advertising dollars? So now I am on the bus and I am on the radio as well. And our tagline on the radio is, you know how to spell white, we're in the white pages. And I actually stopped that tagline for about 2 months, and I noticed the difference.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So Vernon knows me, and when we walk in anywhere, they go, "Hey, I know how to spell white." So it's and my grandson actually at one point, he came on the radio too, and it says, "You know how to spell white, we're in the white pages," and he goes, "What are the white pages?" So it's and that might be something for your listeners too, is that find something that sets you out. It might be quirky, it might be unique, but mine is my name, right?
Yeah.
And it's just set yourself out from that. Yeah.
And that's an amazing way to take a common name like we have and make it unique. So kudos to you. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I don't know how my husband and I came up with White House Mortgages, but we did. And so it's just been fun ever since. It's been great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Deb, thank you so much for your time today. This has been you're an absolute joy to talk to, and
thank you.
I can see why you're so successful and you have such a phenomenal team.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you so much, Deb. Like Joe said, we could definitely see how you do so well. You have a great personality, so appreciate you being on here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank Nigel. I met him in Vancouver on a fluke, and he met me at a down time. Actually, we had literally just lost one of our pups. And he was, so it was just by fluke. You never know what's going to happen or where you're going to meet somebody.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you, guys. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the $1 Billion Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode.
For more in-depth entrepreneurial insights, follow us on social media. And for more info on the show, go to billiondollarpodcast.com.
See you next time.